Hi, everybody. Welcome to Rick Snider's Washington on YouTube, where you get the whole story. So please like, share, subscribe, comment, even hit the thanks button. So I always say that for the algorithm. If you're watching on replay, most people do. We have about an hour ahead of Washington Commanders talk, and I just kind of fill a couple moments here until people start loading in. And first one is in now. We'll see if it's Steve or not. But so I know, I should say, I already know. I'll do the live chats to the Monday after the Super Bowl, and I think I'm going to take a little bit of a break for maybe a few weeks till free agency comes along. Done about 25 of these since the preseason, so time to take a breath. But I appreciate everybody coming, and just want to kind of freshen up. Oh, Mark's first in today. Okay. Steve isn't. I don't know where Steve is. So yeah, we're just going to kind of take a break. I think there's not a lot to talk about really tonight, but we'll talk about whatever people want to talk about. I think it's just me and you, Michael. Nobody else is going to come. I noticed last week's numbers were really down, so I have a feeling we're kind of coming to that point in the schedule. Seasons of Discontent podcast, that's down for a few weeks. Might as well, admit it's over. Yeah, you're right about that, Michael. I mean, there's definitely some of that. Although my YouTube numbers in general and the favorite videos are the highest numbers the last couple of years have been January, February. So I don't know. It's kind of weird. There isn't as much out there. So not as people come and watch a little more often just because they don't have many other options. But whatever. So, all right, we got 3. So, yeah, we got a quorum or whatever. Okay, so we're just kind of hanging out, see if anyone else shows up. But in the meantime, if you have questions, go ahead and fire away. And if you see, look on my channel, you'll notice I tried plant-based hot dogs today. It was okay. It kind of mild flavor, really, more than anything. Put ketchup mustard on them. It tastes fine. So I had a video there. I do plant-based stuff now and then, but I'm not a vegan or vegetarian or whatever. I just try to eat healthier. I mean, hot dogs, man. Whew, so much bad stuff for you on hot dogs. And these plant-based ones were like Zippo for the fat content. Come on with your. So, a friend of mine told me she could speak Southern, even though she's from New York. I thought that was her finally sending me the voice so I could hear it. All right, Suzanne B. So I knew. Your thoughts on who would be the best OC for the Commanders? Well, I mean, Bieniemy is certainly an interesting one. I'm not sure really how much is him, how much is it Andy Reid, how much is it Patrick Mahomes. So when you look at, Eric Bieniemy, you have to wonder. I mean, the whole thing with Belichick and Brady, where who was really the main source of that. History will tell us eventually. So I don't know about Eric. I mean, Eric's certainly been around long enough, has some new ideas. They haven't interviewed him yet, but I know they're interested in it, as is Baltimore and Tennessee. So they're the only shot at him. Pat Schumer, I think, probably had the best resume of everybody they talked to. Zampese could at least keep the same offensive system, and not that Rivera is thinking, well, we only got a year to go, so let's do whatever. He's not thinking that way. Now, it may happen, it may not. But if you want to develop Sam Howell, the last thing you really want to do is change the offensive terminologies and such. And so Zampese gives you that type of thing. Now, what kind of game caller would he be? I'm not sure. His father, Ernie Zampese, Norv Turner used to talk about Ernie as, the greatest. And I got to meet Ernie. He was with the Washington as like a consultant for a year, quite a while ago. So I think, I don't know if Ken's got his dad's touch or not. I mean, Scott didn't have Norv's. So it'd be kind of weird how it's a small world in the NFL coaching circles. I think in the last 20 years, the money has gotten so much better. And suddenly it's become more of a family business than it ever was among coaches. Before, paid okay, but people did it because they loved it more, and they didn't necessarily bring their kids into the business. But anymore, it seems like everybody's staff has somebody's son on it, easily. I mean, so even Ron's son isn't on the coaching staff, but he works in the front office, events and such. So everybody seems to have their family in them. And I know Shanahan was saying, "Listen, I'm bringing my son to be a coordinator. I get to see my son every day. Normally, if we're on other teams, we see each other, a couple times a year or something." And so Mike Shanahan just talked about, I can see my grandkids occasionally now. He lives here. I can see why they do this. Sure, why not? Both of my kids followed me into the journalism business, but they both didn't last very long. One 5 years and one 10, and they moved on to better gigs. They make a lot more money and do better. So, my kids followed me into business. DC Destiny, thank you for coming. Appreciate it. David Rogers, any updates on the sale? No, been kind of quiet. I expect after the Super Bowl is when things will be much more noticeable. The NFL kind of has an edict out there about don't screw up Super Bowl week with other news. It's not a perfect hold. I've seen things happen before, and the NFL definitely leans on that. So that's probably what's going on right now as we're still talking about things. But the guy who tracked Dan Snyder's plane a couple hours ago said he was back in DC, so maybe Dan's back to do something. But of course, you can talk on the phone or Zoom or whatever. He doesn't have to be here to cut a deal with somebody. I don't know. I think we're getting to the sooner than later situation, but I don't think it's right away on there. All right, well, waiting on a question. Any of you guys ever been to a super Walmart? I went the other day for the first time, which my wife laughed at me, but when would I ever? I don't even hardly go to shopping anywhere. But man, these super Walmarts are like 2 Costco's or something. It's just amazing how much stuff. I wouldn't say the prices are infinitely better, but it was definitely interesting. I'll give it that. There you go. Talking about shopping at Walmart. If they'd like to sponsor this, great. On there. Usually see. So the videos lately, I've been doing a few other things. Just because there's no Commanders news much lately. And I do not like to do videos of 5 things that Commanders will do. Yeah, that's poser stuff. You go other places for that. You don't come here for that. So I like to do other things. Tomorrow morning's video, as a matter of fact, is 10 words Americans can't pronounce very well. And I know it's a little unusual, but I got a release on it. And so watch tomorrow morning. I post videos 6 a.m. because a lot of people watch them at 6 a.m. Analytics, and then usually around 5, 6 p.m. every day. So I'm sure back tomorrow I'll have some other stuff. I did write for Odyssey.com, 1067 The Fans website, which I write for. And today I was writing about Eric Bieniemy and why he might want to take this job. So I basically said, you can go there and read it, but I basically said, I kind of reversed course on this one because certainly you would have other options. But let's just say Eric wanted to come here and did well, but the team didn't do that well. Well, if new owners might want to replace Ron, they might go with Eric as the next coach. You never know. It's a chance to get inside the door because here's Bieniemy's problem. He's had 17 interviews in the last 3 years and never gotten a job. Why? There's probably a few of those where he probably thought, I don't want this job. It's not a good one. I'm better off in Kansas City, but somehow he's not really being interviewed for any of this stuff. So sometimes you got to take a step sideways to go forward. And I think maybe that's what Eric has to do. So that people don't think it's Andy Reid doing everything. He needs to show by himself he could. So I think that's why it's one good reason for him to come, and maybe he can get promoted here, or he can show what he can do here without Andy's shadow and move on. Andy's shadow. Matter of fact, you've probably seen these lately. I have a guest coming on the chat today. That's me. Yeah. People think that Andy Reid and I look alike. And if I wear the red and all, and when I was bigger before I lost some weight, maybe my wife says I do. I really hate the hell out of this. But Andy Reid comes on my show now and then. You betcha, when you have a winner, it's Andy Reid. Well, Andy, I got to tell you, man, you're in the Super Bowl, so it's not like we can knock on you or anything. That's right, fat boy. He is the meanest thing, though. I tell you. So Andy comes on the show once in a while. Andy, you got to go game plan for Philly. You probably know something about them. Oh yeah, cheesesteak boys. I'll see you later. So oh, Honest Fruit came in and hit the thanks button. Thank you, Honest Fruit. Why should we care so much about the OC? Rivera and them bungle everything. Who doesn't believe they're lame ducks? Well, you gotta have hope. I mean, when sports is supposed to be about something you enjoy and happiness. If it bothers the hell out of you, move on, man. I mean, there's other things to hate on life. That's one thing I love about sports. You start over again. All right, DC Destiny. Well, let's say we don't get Eric. Does that mean going to Schumer? I don't think so. I think if they were going to Schumer, I think they would have done it. That's the interesting part. Now, why would you interview, say, 6 guys for OC? What's the point in that? Is it a smokescreen to say I covered everybody in the world? This is who I like. It's a less popular choice. Maybe you want a lot of outside opinions as to how they see your offense and what's going on. So there's a chance to pick other people's brains from the NFL about what's going on in your own house that you don't see. There's a positive thing to that too on there. So I don't know who it's going to be, but it could be Zampese, and everybody's going to be hating on that. I don't know how he is as a game caller, but give him 5 minutes before you hate on it. At this time, who's higher on the board, Porter, Gonzalez, or Skoronsky? I don't know. I haven't done my draft board at all yet. Be a while. I'm waiting until the Super Bowl. Then I'll worry about free agency. Then I'll worry about the draft, combine, stuff like that. Give it a few minutes, and that's how I look at it. Azan, how do I feel about the enemy? If they get him, I think it'd be a positive. At least I hope it is. But I've never been around the guy personally to know how he would be that way. Honest Fruit, like eating pie much more. Humble, which pie are we talking about? Anyway, as you saw up in there, we had somebody hit the Honest Fruit hit the thanks button, which is just below you down the bottom underneath me. And I always say, I appreciate the thanks button. And it was created by artists and all during the pandemic, and they basically was a tip jar, and people would request songs and they'd play them, and they'd throw a few bucks, and people were making a living doing this. Well, I don't make a living doing this, but I do make some money, and so I do appreciate it whenever people want to hit the thanks button. Mike Wall says one of the ways to talk to a lot of guys is the Rooney Rule. True, although Washington has a lot of minority people. I mean, they got a team president who's black, a coach who's Spanish. I mean, it's not like they're a white-only team. See, Brady to the Commanders. Says sure. Nah, I don't think so. Sean, let's see. Now's my chance to put the Andy look thing to rest. Go to media days dressed as Reed and ask him what he thinks. Yeah. Well, I don't go to the media days anymore. Used to. That would have been interesting if I never covered Kansas City in the Super Bowl. Or it would have been, well, let's see, way back, he may have been at Philly back then. I didn't do that either. So that would be interesting if we ever meet. I mean, he's a little bigger and older than me. All right, I think Michael says, I think they let Chase, I assume young, test the market. He's proven nothing. I wouldn't say he's proven nothing because he had a great rookie year. So you saw what happened there. Then he gets hurt. Wasn't having a good year 2. Then gets hurt. Comes back for the last month of year 3. I wasn't impressed, but they just wanted to get him back in the flow of things. So he met that criteria. And then here he comes back for year 4. But if they want to pick up the option, I think it's May 5th, but I'd have to check the date. They have to do it by then, before you see May 4th. So they wanted to see at least something in year 3 just to have some kind of feeling about it. But it's a lot of money up there. I'm pretty sure they'll probably do it and exercise his option on year 5. Okay, let's see. Honest Fruit. I like pie more than Rivera's decisions. Well, who doesn't? If it's the right pie. Let's see. Michael, is there an OC out there whose last name means rivers? Like Rivera, Del Rio. Ooh, I see a trend too. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Okay, if you speak Spanish, Del Rio of the water. All right, Joel Christian. I've seen a lot of fans with dreams of the team making big moves, but I don't see much happening. Any word on the budget Snyder gave them? No, not yet. Going to hear from the coach, NFL Combine, which is what 3 weeks from now, I think, 3 or 4. So we'll get to hear more from coaches and stuff back then. Right now, if you're in Washington, kind of a hiatus time where it's more of a time for the scouts and those kind of guys working on things, and coaches get to say, "Whew, boy, that was a fast 6 months," and kind of so we don't hear everybody. Honestly, Philip Philip Rivers. I had heard Philip Rivers was thinking about coming back, but I wouldn't go there. Okay, Sean, let's see. In his opinion, bring back paid movement is short sighted. Don't invest all your cap on defense. Well, you invest in good players. And I saw they just came out with the franchise tags figures, and a defensive tackle was 18 million and something. Well, in the open market, he would probably command more like 20. So 18 million might be cheaper actually for a 1 year deal. A defensive end was 19. Quarterbacks, I think, were 32. Receivers were 19. I know safety was 14. That's just off the top of my head what I saw. So Deron Payne actually could come in under the market, for this year. The cap number went up about 12 million, I believe, or 8 million. When Wentz gets cut, the team will have about 32 million to 36 million free. They got to sign a quarterback, even a veteran, would be 6 to 10 million. If they got to sign Heineke, I think Heineke's going to get 7, 8, 9 million. So some of that money it's not as free as you think. Plus, then you have a rookie pool. I haven't seen the rookie pool numbers yet, but it's probably going to cost them a good 6 million. So there isn't tons of money to throw out there at free agents. Let's see, Michael. I'd like to see the team not re-sign anyone who costs more than 15 million a year. Well, I mean, it's not our money. What do we care? If that's what they want to do. So beer costs another $1. Okay. It's their money, spend it. I'd rather see them spend it than not spend it. Because that just means the owner makes more. A lot of money. There's a lot more money coming because of gambling. My God. I think sports talk radio wouldn't survive the pandemic if it weren't for sports betting. And I work for one of these stations. Not that they tell me anything. Didn't raise my money any. But it really did save that. But I don't like it. I don't do it because I come from an age where if you were a sports writer and gambled on teams, that you would be fired. And so I just never got into it. Now, I covered horses for years. That was okay because it was legal to bet. And I made a little money picking horses. All right, Slam and Jammin's back. Okay, tired of the local media comparing Washington Eagles game in 2020 to the Eagles Super Bowl run in 22 when Washington finished at 8-1. Eagles are moving forward, thinking that Washington is. True. I mean, they've gone from 4 wins to the Super Bowl in 2 years. I thought Philly had a great offseason moves, picking up different guys, especially veterans, for cheap. They did a good job. So they deserve to do it. And they got a quarterback. Got to have a quarterback. How much cap space do we get for cutting Jackson and Collins? Kevin asked. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. But there's a lot of websites that have that. Let's see. Honest Spirit, if a new owner comes in sooner than later, to at least try to get a legit GM this offseason. Sure. You can change your GM really around July. And that's when Snider did it to Casserly. Coaches you fire in January because season's over. GM season is really January to July. That's their biggest season. And so I would, you could. I don't think Martin's done a terrible job. I think the last 2 drafts have been very good. They didn't have any money to really spend on free agency. I think that's now apparent that, Snyder didn't have the cash. So that's why they didn't do it. And the few chances they did take, like Jackson, didn't work out. Collins, that's a mixed one on there. So let's see. So I don't know if I would say, Martin's getting whacked first day. I don't know if I do that. What's the eat pie sign about? Asked CM Martin. I had nothing to say, so I just stuck it on there. That's all. If you take me seriously, you're going to get fooled now and then. Some days I just talk nonsense. I've been doing this for 45 years now. So sometimes it's a little hard to take it seriously what I'm doing. I do appreciate everybody coming. We've had almost 11 million viewers on Rick Snider's Washington since I started a little over 2 years ago. I'm amazed. People come up to me out of nowhere. I mean, I was sitting on a bench in downtown DC in front of the Department of Justice, and guy just comes up and asks, who he knew who I was and wanted to talk about things. Or I was in a grocery store the other day. Somebody did. I mean, it's just weird. Um, I've been doing this 45 years. It's not like I've been hiding, but people suddenly watch this show so much more. So, I mean, thank you all for doing that because otherwise that's going to retire. Uh, but now things are getting good with this team again, some new faces and such. I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. Maybe slowing down a little bit, though. I'll say that just because, hey, man, 80-hour weeks, I've been there for all my life. I'm not doing that anymore. All right, what position would you go hard in free agency, linebacker or offensive line? Asked Sean. I would go offensive line all day long before I get to linebacker. Not that they don't need one, but I'm going. You need guard and a center. You need two guards in the center, to be honest. I would be moving on from injured centers they've had. Get a fresh young buck and get him in there. And guards they need desperately. You could probably hang in there with your there. And you could draft a tackle. I don't know if they will at 16, but if they did, then Cosme goes inside the guard where he really should be anyway. All right. Paul says, do I trust Ron that Howell will be starting quarterback for 23? No, I think he gets the chance to be the starting quarterback in 23. And that's fair. But you don't give it to him if he doesn't outplay whomever comes in. And if it's Heineke, well, then that's Heineke. I mean, everybody loved Heineke until Hal showed up. Now he got a new shiny new toy. Everybody wants him. You can always move a tackle to guard. Michael says, yeah. I mean, I've seen it. I thought Brandon Sheriff right away. I say guard. Just watch them. I'm not an expert, but I've been watching football for about almost 50 years. Been around fields. So, I can see some things I can see clearly. I see what I need to see versus personnel people who see what they want to see. Sometimes you don't get what you want. All right, let's see. What do I think of the free agent pool? The center from Cleveland, SBH. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at some tape and stuff on that. I can't look at every center around the league. That's not really one thing. It's hard, man. There's a lot of people in this league. I try to really focus on Washington more than anything and know it inside and out. The other teams I don't know as well, but I know some. But I'd have to look at him. When do we know who gets Hard Knocks next season? Haven't heard yet. I think maybe Super Bowl week we might hear, Sean. I would love to see Hard Knocks come. I remember they came with Houston to training camp with Washington. So I got to see how the cameras were around people and all. And it was kind of cool. And I think it would be a great, insightful thing. I think Washington is only one of a handful of teams eligible. I could see them coming. The other thing is Washington plays at New England. New England has a game in Germany. Woo, I'd love to see that game in Germany. Why not? Coaches don't like it because it changes a routine, and coaches hate changing routines. But, man, what a smash success it was last year in Germany. Of course, you have Brady. I mean, this stands – I heard they had 3 million people apply for tickets, so go for it, man. See any Oscar-nominated films? Yeah, Sean asked. Yeah, I saw Top Gun Maverick. This weekend, my wife and I were going to go see 80 for Brady or whatever it's called. But I really want to see Cocaine Bear. Did you see that commercial yesterday on the game, Cocaine Bear? I started laughing, thinking, what is this, a joke? No, it's a true story, and they made a movie of it. That's a bear that's coked out because these guys dumped the coke out of a plane, and the bear ate it, and now he's nuts. I really want to go see that. I bet it's going to be funny as all. Any rumors? Any truths to the rumors about the budget? David asked. No, I haven't heard yet. But I'm expecting if Snider's selling, he's not going to sit here and go, hey, man, spend all the money you want. No, he's saying hold off changing light bulbs unless they're really burned out. That anybody that sells stuff knows you don't throw money into something to get rid of. So I would expect it to be Spartan. Do I think Taylor will resign or Ron will go after Carr? Asked Paul. I think Taylor will resign, and I don't see him going after Carr. I know it's a popular thing, but I don't think so. Honest Brute, okay. Honest Brute, let's go see Cocaine Bear, man. That would be awesome. I just think it's so funny. It's like preposterous. The bear sneezing and white powder everywhere. Let's see. Alexander says, I'll take you to some of the spots on the 100 best list. I ate at some of them. The food's delicious. I have no doubt it is. He's talking about the Washingtonian magazine came out with a top 100 best restaurants in D.C., and I did a video of which I admitted I have never eaten in any of them. But I don't eat in places that expensive. That's how I can afford to have a nice home and all. Reporters don't make that kind of money. Somebody wants to treat me to it, great. We are going to start the pizza show up in a couple of weeks. We're already setting it up. Man, the pizza looks awesome at this place called Rocco's. You got to have good pizza at Rocco's. So a couple of old sports writer friends and I are going to do it. We're going to be like 3 men and a pizza. It'll be funny, hopefully, and that'll be out in a couple of weeks. What's the update on Snider selling the team? Says never give up. Nothing lately. I think it's going to go after the Super Bowl. For those of you who've heard me just talk about this a minute ago, let me just explain that the average viewer of the show is watching about 8 to 10 minutes. So that's why we answer the same questions sometimes over and over, because new audiences cycle in and out. If you go see Congress back when we were letting people watch the sessions, maybe it'll come back soon. You used to be able to just sit in there for a few minutes and then they shuttled you out and do it. Just like Supreme Court hearings. You want to go sit there? I do tour guiding, so I go through. Sometimes you only get a few minutes. You wait for hours to get a few minutes to listen to an argument. And one of the Supreme Court judges once said, listen, you want to sit here and really do it? Wait for some really stupid, type of challenge that's made in like January and nobody cares. That's when you can sit here for a while. Anything big, nah. Okay, honest spirit. Yeah, I know the bear is stuffed and on display. Yeah, it is out west somewhere. I was reading about it. Pablo Escobar. I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be funny. Scarface meets Smokey the Bear. Count me in, says Sean. Yeah, I'm telling you, man. There's a Smokey the Bear museum at U.S. Forestry Service in D.C. Has a museum in the building. I've never been in it. Love to see it though. Raymond, Chicago is the best pizza. Well, I love the deep dish pizza, but I saw a picture of one called Chicago Skinny, and it's a really thin crust. I didn't even know there's such a thing on there. So, but I've had Chicago deep dish in Chicago when I covered Bears games there, and yeah, it's pretty awesome. Where's the pizza place we're talking about? I think it's McLean. It's called Rocco's, and it's in Northern Virginia. So can't say what time yet. I don't want to fill the place with all my admirers. But when we do the show, I'll tell you where we are. Do I think Washington would draft a linebacker in this year's draft? Raymond says, if I had to throw my money on the table, I'll say no. I mean, if they re-sign Cole Holcomb, which I would expect they will, free agent. But if they didn't, I don't know. Ron's getting kind of sensitive to public criticism more than I would have guessed. And while people would like to see a linebacker, I mean, Jamin Davis is, he had a decent second year. So it's not, the hot button it was. They could use one. I think it's just whatever is going to be on the board at that point. But I'd like to see him get an offensive lineman if possible. But you can't force it if it's not there. So we get the Chiefs, Steve OC, I hear. Ask Chuck. Well, they're interested in him. That's as far as that's gone. Only you can start forest fires, says Michael. Very nice. All right, Pete. I've read that EB is not well liked by players. I have heard that too, but I don't cover the Chiefs enough to know, is it really true? A lot of people are badmouthing in the NFL. Trust me. Paul Green, when you are going to talk about best foods for Super Bowl party, all right, let's do that next week. But you got to have wings, and boneless wings are called chicken nuggets. They're not wings, so don't fall for that nonsense. I'm sure wings already cost a lot, but I'm sure they'll cost more. And I like to put Old Bay on my wings. More, that's probably my favorite topping. Let's see. And after that, well, let's see. Because I'll have a Super Bowl party, because now that I don't cover the game live anymore, a lot of family comes, and now I have a new home, big TV, big open area in the house for that. like the middle third of the house is now where you can watch it. So I can seat about 20 some people. And so everybody's coming. I think, yeah, pizza's a good one. Wings are good. Burgers are good. Hot dogs. I had a plant-based hot dog today video go up. They weren't bad. If I tell you the truth, if you ate one and no one said anything, you'd never know. You just think it was a bland hot dog. The Costco ones are good. Costco $1.50 for a hot dog and a drink is the best value out there in America. Let's see. Alex says Ron's feeling the pressure from the public. I think so. Sometimes they like to hide from it, but I don't think he is. Thoughts on the refs' performance in the conference games? Asked Alexander. Yeah, they sucked. So they've been sucking. I think the problem with referees now too is the athletes are just getting so fast that these guys can't keep up. And so they miss things. So that's my guess, is they're just falling behind the pace of the game. It's not like you can get faster refs, and they're getting older, not faster. Can you say, Jackson, it's bedtime? Asked CM. My son's a fan and won't stop watching. That's okay, Jackson. You keep watching. You don't need sleep. We're not going to be here another half an hour. Come on, CM. What are you doing? Let the kid learn something. Oh, matter of fact, kid, if you're watching, learn to use a screwdriver and other things. I did a video this past week. I bought this chair that I'm sitting on. It took me 10 minutes to put together. And Amazon said, we can deliver it, put together for $60. $60 for putting together a chair. I wish they'd let me have that money. I'll go put chairs together all day, $60 for 10 minutes. So, so Jackson, learn how to use your tools. It's not just all about computers. It's about learning life skills. Learn to change a tire. I don't know how old you are, but learn to cook something yourself. Those kind of things. And sorry, CM. What can I tell you? I'm the favorite uncle now. I can tell him stay up another half an hour. It's only 8:30. Come on, man. Let him stay up till 9. All right. TKO forever. Well, they attempt to extend Cam Curl off this offseason. Well, it's up for it, and I would if I were them. I noticed that franchising tag, not that they'd stick that to him, was $14 million. I was, all right, making a good day. All right, Sean, what's your favorite away city? Well, I bet today would be Vegas, but I didn't do that. San Francisco was my favorite one. Love going places. But, you try to find something cool in a lot of towns if you can on there. They all have something if you really want to go out and look for it. Nashville, I covered basketball in there. Man, we had a good time there. There's a lot of them, at least in Jacksonville. Jacksonville is basically the right turn out of Florida. I mean, if you need a CVS, it's great. But Jacksonville, the stadium's a long ways from the beach. So that would be, I won't even hesitate to say that's my least favorite. Who do I like in the Super Bowl now? Never give up. I'm going to lean toward Philly. I mean, I'd like to see what Mahomes looks like in a week. Man, I was impressive that he managed to play that game with a high ankle sprain. That was a gutsy game. I give him, he truly is a Hall of Famer in the making. But I'd like to see how things go in a week. But I think Philly's a little better. But I was impressed with Kansas City's defense in the last game. That showed me more than I thought they had. Let's see. Ron didn't know the team could be eliminated from the playoffs. What was that about, Alexander? I think sometimes your mind's going a million miles an hour after a game. Just cut them a break. It's really not the end of the earth. Okay, today is the 40th anniversary of the 70 Chips, says Frank Addington. Where were you that night? What do you remember the most? Okay, so 40 years ago, I was 22. I was a year away from starting to cover the team. So next year will be my 40th. And I didn't do a lot for a few years. I was a young buck out there once in a while. But I remember, I think looking back at it, that is the single most important play of the Redskins franchise in the modern era. And I remember everybody had a big poster on their wall, man cave, the garage or something. I swear everybody had one for many, many years. Wish I had the money off that where he's pulling away from Don McNeil. That was a big deal. So that was really the play that made Washington what it was in the 80s. So I thought it was one of the great plays. Just got here, Tim. Where have you been for half an hour? Okay, sale update. Don't have any. Sorry, you're late. I told everybody all about who's going to get it. You missed it. I'm sorry. No, there's just nothing right at the moment that we're hearing. I'm waiting. I'm thinking after the Super Bowl is when we're going to get there. Honest fruit, engagement ring advice. Woo, thinking of getting hitched. Okay, here's a good one. They say, who is it? They say 3 months salary for an engagement ring. You know who says that? The ring salesman. So screw him. Spend what you can afford. And if it's not good enough for it, then you're not marrying the right person. How do you like that? I have 2 daughters that married, so man, the little ring I got my wife was all I could afford back in 1979 when we got engaged. Don McNeil slipped, Michael? Yeah, because Rigo cast him off. That's why. He couldn't win that one. Who do I call for a tour of the White House? And what's the best time? Well, Joe's usually up about 6 a.m., so you can call him then, Paul. But actually, to get a tour of the White House, you now have to call your House Representative or your U.S. Senator. And it takes three months or so, sometimes faster, depends on the time of year. And you have to hand in a bunch of docs. They want to make sure you're not a terrorist. They want to know who's coming through. So you got to call those guys, and they'll do it. If you're a foreigner, then you've got to call your embassy and ask them, but they don't usually do it. Has Scott Turner been hired anywhere, Raymond? Not to my knowledge. Let's see, Alexander, if Reagan's play was most important, what was the second? I don't know, Alexander. I can't tell you offhand. My mind doesn't work that way. Never give up. Skin shut the Dolphins down the second half in that game. Yeah, quite a bit. Oh, Big Money Sonny is here. How you doing? Don't forget, if you want to hit the thanks button, Rick appreciates it because I'm doing this for you guys. So you guys could throw a couple of bucks back. That would be great. The thanks button is just below us here next to the likes and all that other stuff. And I would appreciate the support. All right. Because nobody bought the Commanders book I just came out with. You guys didn't want that. All right, Sean, when did Washington struggle when free agency hit the early 90s? Why? They mishandled it. They understood it, but they just didn't handle it very well. That was probably Charlie Castle's biggest downfall on that, was handling free agency so poorly then. And the team just fell apart quickly. 40 years ago tonight, I was in Marine Corps boot camp, says Tim, but the recruiter sent me a copy of the front page of the Post. Okay, so Sarge had a heart. I had a nephew who started in the Marine Corps. He reported 9/10. So the first day he woke up was 9/11. And that kid spent 3 years in the Middle East with a gun in the hot spots. Man, that was crazy. Would Darryl Green's punt return against the Vikings be the second most important, Alexander? Yeah, let's go with that. That was a great play. And if you look on the edge, Ron Rivera is in that frame. He's more toward the sideline in his route where Darryl cut inward away from him. So he was never close enough to touch Darryl anyway. But it's funny to see him in there. And let's see. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, Darryl. You're right. Darryl's punt return was against the Bears. Okay. Kevin wants some advice on how to stay married. I guess stay married. I've been married 42 years. You just give up your free will at some point and you just do what you're told. That helps a lot. So my father gave me a piece of advice when I got married, and 2 pieces. He said, 1, if you ever feel like hitting somebody, get your car keys and go drive, and don't come back till you don't feel like hitting anybody. And that was a great piece of advice because it was different back then. Domestic violence wasn't, it wasn't appreciated, but it's nothing like today where people really wanted about it. People did stupid stuff back then. And the other piece he always told me was always try and give more than 50% to the marriage. And if the other person is too, you're fine. All right. Riga's run was number 2, says Sean. Versus what? Punt returns against the Bears. Yeah, I know. Somebody else said Minnesota. I just agreed with them. All right, Brad. There you go. Brad said the same thing. Yeah, I was just agreeing. Listen, for me, this is late. It's a live show here. So I remember the game well. It's unfortunate Riga's cut himself off from the franchise, says Alex. Yeah, he's got part of that lawsuit about the Hogs suing the team because they want some of that Hog money that the team is going to market, and he deserves it as well as the rest of them deserve it. Riga's always been his own guy, Riga's always been his own guy. So this doesn't surprise me at all. All right. Oh, called up the questions. There you go. All right. There you go. How about Doug Williams, the second quarter against Denver? True, but it wasn't one play because it was they scored all the 5 touchdowns in the quarter, but not one play in particular. I remember that they were telling me, some of the Hogs later said that Smith, the running back, they basically were in a huddle and they said, "You screw this up, we're going to kill you." And so he was running away from them as much as he was running toward the goal line because they were going to kill him if he screwed it up. I mean, they were basically telling Denver what they were going to run, and then just running right through them. Where do we rank Darrell chasing down Eric Dickerson coming from nowhere? Wasn't that Tony Dorsett we're talking about, or did he do it to Dickerson too? But man, catching Dorsett in that game was like, holy crap, who is that? So let's see, John Blazing, NE 808. Do you remember the news when a Native American tribe came to D.C. to protest their name in the 90s, and there was a woman dancing, singing it with a drum, and said she put a curse on the team. That was actually in Minneapolis for the team Super Bowl up there. I was there for that. And you wanted to deny, kind of poo-poo it, but, they haven't done anything. Well, it didn't take effect till after that Super Bowl because they won that game. But after that, I kind of wonder if she had some powers. Have I been to the TV show The Office Museum in D.C.? No, I didn't even know they had that. There's 75 museums in D.C. I didn't know about that one, though. Yeah, Tim Burns, that was Dorsett we're talking about. That was impressive. I'm telling you, when you stand next to Darrell back when he played and watch him just suddenly run, it was like the wind went past you. I don't think you can quite appreciate it on TV or the stands as much as when you're down the field. And I've been on the practice field. I've been in the practice field during it when Coach Terry Robisky made me come out in the middle of the field. Man, it's like a war going on around you. I mean, stuff's flying everywhere. It's so different than even the sidelines, Let's see. So Never Give Up was stationed at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, I guess it is, when the Skins played the Broncos. Let's see. Heard from a Soldier score is 10-0, and then I hear it's 35-10. Yeah, I remember sitting on couch watching that one. I went to the next Super Bowl and covered it, but I just watched that one. The day after that, I had to go back to Redskins Park because most of the beat writers and all were out Super Bowl. Doug Williams comes in because they had flown back overnight, I guess, or it's Tuesday. I forget which day it is. And Doug's in the media center where I was at the old Redskin Park. And a pizza kid comes in, deliver a pizza, and sees Doug, rips off the top of the pizza box, and gets Doug to sign it. I don't know whose pizza it was, but that kid left, and Doug didn't flinch, signed the pizza box for the kid. I always remember that. When I saw Doug years later, he came back to the team. I talked to him about it. He says, "Yeah, I don't remember you." And I said, "Well, one, I was a punk kid. And two, I had hair. I mean, it was 30-some years ago, Doug. Sorry, I didn't age well." Let's see. Oh, Mike was also out there at Fort Lost in the Woods. Okay. Is that the French and Indian War? J-Dubs, thoughts on your favorite OC candidate? The favorite one so far that they've been, I guess, would be Schumer. That's the best resume. But it really is a lot about who's going to adapt to this team. You can't do the plug and play. Let's see. Brendan went to training camp in 2012 when Art and Darrell were both class acts. I was too scared to race Darrell because I know he'd win. Well, Darrell wouldn't race you for starters, but Darrell, man, I often tease. Darrell one time said, which race? He was joking just a few years ago. We still talk. And it's 40 yards. I said, Darrell, you're going to have to give me 30 yards to make it competitive. I mean, that's how fast he was. What are the best places to open in D.C. and is the monument open? I'd love to tour Union Station, says Paul. Union Station was the biggest building in the world when it opened about 100 years ago. They're getting ready to do some big changes at Union Station, update it. It's fallen on some hard times, a lot of vacancy on there. But they're doing high-speed trains out of D.C. to New York. Going to be ready in a couple of years. You can go from Washington to New York to Manhattan. 28 minutes is what they're saying. Whew, I can't even get home from Union Station 28 minutes. So best places to visit in D.C. outside of the National Mall. I'd have to take you on the tour to show you the rest of them. I mean, it's just stuff. Georgetown's cool. Kalorama area is really cool to see. There's a lot of great places to walk around D.C. Tim Bergman. If you want to do that, over there, Monumental Thoughts uh, is my website, and you can reach me out to me there about tours. Dexter knocking out Danny White, then tipping Hogaboom's pass to Daryl Grant. Yeah, that was a great one, Tim. Yeah, Dexter was awesome. That's why when Kerrigan got the all-time sack, they didn't count Dexter's 6 sacks as a rookie year because the league did not count sacks until the following year. So Dexter really has 6 more, and he's really the leader in this all-time thing. But nobody wanted to listen to that. And I'm not knocking, um, the other guy, but Dexter's the best. So Alex says, you feel like the enemy's the Rivera's guy the whole time. Maybe. I mean, now he's going to the Super Bowl, so he's tied up even longer. They changed the rule a few years ago to allow for interviews, and you could interview this week if you wanted. I have not heard that is happening, but could be. Again, Goatman stories, says John. Ooh, so you come from Southern PG County too, do you? Yeah, I saw the Goatman once. Okay, I am not lying when I tell you this story. I was about 14, and I lived in Accokeek, which is south of DC, about 10 miles. And we always knew Goatman was around. And I saw him across the way, a big open field, but we got to the woods before he could catch up to us. Another time, I'm coming back from a ball game, team bus. We're going down one of the roads. Goatman goes by us on a motorcycle. Don't ask me why, but everybody's yelling Goatman. It was crazy. All right, so it is true. And I know people don't want to say it is, but it is. The closest you get to racing Daryl is on the other side of the road to training camp. Michael says, "Yeah, Daryl's not doing that." Let's see. Never give us up. What needs to be done to recapture the fan base? Winning, which used to be the best in football. Winning. And they got to start winning now so that you're willing to pay all that money to go into a new stadium. And what's the word of the day? PSLs. I keep saying it. And PSL is going to cost some money. Be glad it's not Dan Snider. He would charge you even more. Lotsford Road. Okay, Tim. I forget what we were talking about there. Do I think Kerrigan will make the Hall of Fame? Asked Kevin. No. Because the Hall of Fame is also about, especially defensive end and all. Were you the best guy? Were you the best guy in the league at the time? Ryan was not. Ryan was a very good player, great pick, did a lot. It's not Hall of Fame. Crybaby Bridge. Yeah, I know that one. Crybaby Bridge is where you hear that baby crying. I've never heard the baby cry, but I've heard about it. How different was the atmosphere at RFK? Asked Chris. It was like all your friends. I mean, because pretty much you sat with the same people every week. Nobody sold their tickets. There wasn't a scalper thing going on. You knew the same people all around you. And, the balancing stands, and the team was winning, Super Bowls. That makes it great. Hey, listen, they'd have bouncing stands at FedEx if they were winning Super Bowls. Of course, the place isn't meant for that. It would fall down, but, whatever. Michael says, nobody's right mind will purchase PSL right now. Well, not right now, but you put a new stadium in. You want to go? There you go. Then you got to do it. But you got to have a good team to make people willing to do it. There are 20 NFL teams with PSLs. They range from $500 to $100,000, depending upon what team, what seat. 500 you might be willing to do, but I have a feeling it'd be a few thousand, at least at the beginning. Yeah. All right, so it might be the most critical time in Washington football history. It says Alex. Well, I would think the late 30s when they came, just to be able to stay. Of course, they won a title the first year in 1937. That helps a lot. After World War II, because football wasn't a big deal, for a long time. Lombardi coming in 69, Allen in 71. Those were big periods in this teams. Gibbs coming in the 80s. Those were big times. But this is definitely a crossroad time in a way. And they're not anything popularity-wise what they used to be. Much to my chagrin, because more people would be on here and they'd all be hitting the thanks button. Do I think the new owner will swing a deal to redevelop the RFK land, says Tim? I think they have a chance to, versus Dan had zero chance to. The new guy will have a chance. Does he do it? I don't know, but he does have a chance. What would it mean to go back to the RFK, Mojo? I went to RFK in the 60s with my father. We would see Senator games. we never went together to see a Redskin game. My dad thought football was dumb, and my dad's passed away a long time ago. But walking through Lot 8, I remember first time covering a Skins game. I hadn't been there in about 20 years since I was at Senators games. And I just remember walking through the tunnel from Lot 8. And when I was a kid, it seemed so big and so crowded, and everybody was mooing. And my dad would go damn drunks and all that. And to come back and go, hey, this is it? Man, that was a revelation. Have we talked about Rex Ryan yet? No, John. I don't know if Rex Ryan knows what he's talking about or not. I heard what he said. Not really thinking about it. Do I think Washington Minnesota championship game was the loudest? Asked Paul. Ironically, I was not there for that. I was assigned to the AFC championship game that day. Watched it on TV from, I forget if I was in Denver that day or Cleveland. I think I was in Denver. So I did not get to see that firsthand. Fans will come back once Snider's gone, says Raymond. I think some will, but you want lots of fans. And I think they did better this past year. We're getting more locals, but there's still maybe to me about 25,000. And that's miles where they were, but they need twice that. Madden said winning is the best deodorant. Absolutely, Tim. I mean, listen, Jack Kent Cook wasn't the nicest, friendliest, warmest person you ever met. But people loved Cook because they won 3 Super Bowls. So they put up with all his eccentricities and nonsense at times, but he wasn't exactly the nicest man in the world. That said, I did admire some of what he did. He and I had a relationship, and he would talk a lot of business to me because I owned small businesses, and he was kind of lonely, I think, at the end of his life, so he was glad to talk to anybody about it. So, yeah, Michael, he was the same. And if you go see his grave, I did a video. If you go search on Rick Snider's Washington, did a video a few months ago. Went to Sam Huff's funeral or memorial, I should say. I think it was in November. I went by. It was only a few miles away from where Cook was buried. So I went by and saw it again for the first time in years. And it's just a plain, plate on the ground. It says Jack Kent Cook in the years he was alive and dead. Okay, the ESPN guys will say anything to draw interest. Says never give up. Yeah, I mean that's the business they're in. Why didn't he leave the team to his son? Asked Tim. Because the son didn't really want it. He wanted the money. Augustine wants to hear the bell. All right. Did you travel to the Super Bowl with Jack Kent Cook? Well, I did do the 91, Paul, and I didn't travel with Jack, but I was there. Do you think the new owner holds Ron accountable promptly? Asked Mojo. I don't think so. I think anybody smart would try to assess where are they right now. Not that if you're going to buy this team, you aren't already looking at things, but I think you have to meet them. You have to understand firsthand what's going on. So I don't expect that on there. Where's Bob? Bob, are you out there? You usually are. Let's see what we got. We got a few minutes to go. If you want to hit the thanks button, things have been down lately. You guys must be broke. You're worse than me. Well, if you can hit the $2 key or the $5 key, I appreciate it. So that I feel like I'm doing this. I am going to do this a couple more weeks till after the Super Bowl Monday. Then I think I'm going to take a break for a few weeks till free agency starts. Just kind of so I don't look like I'm half asleep here at times. Need to catch a break. I've been trying to finish unpacking in my new home. Been here 3 months. Man, I've been spending days just trying to empty boxes. So I'm a little tired. That's why I look like it. Do I think let's say haven't seen Bob yet? Michael says. Well, I mean, Bob couldn't make it tonight. Bob used to work for the team. And usually comes. All right, never give up. What do you think of Glenn Brenner? He was hilarious. Yeah, Glenn Brenner was awesome. He was the funniest guy around. I mean, there's a lot of other good funny guys. Bram Weinstein. I don't know if you guys understand, but Bram's hilarious. Chick Hernandez, hilarious. A lot of TV guys are funny. They're like performers more than guys like me. So, these guys are always good. Glenn, man, I always tell a story. One time I'm covering a golf tournament, and this guy comes out of a sand dune on a golf cart in the air. I didn't even think you could get a golf cart up in the air. Comes down, bam, hits it real hard on the ground, and keeps on going. And the guy's laughing like a maniac. It was Glenn. You're like, who is that nut job? Yeah. So Glenn was a good-hearted person. He had unfortunately died of brain cancer, I guess it was, or aneurysm or something. He's buried at Oak Hill Cemetery. If you want to know how to find his grave, I can tell you. I've been there. Mojo, we'll be going on vacation. Me? Well, not right now. I'm hoping to go somewhere this summer. Um, I haven't been anywhere hardly in 3 years because of the pandemic. So I'm thinking about going back to Europe, but we'll see. I got a lot of frequent flyer miles I get on my credit card stored up over 3 years, so that'll pay for the airfare. Tim, thank you so much for the tip. I do appreciate it very much. Paul, did I talk to George Michael? Oh, George and I were good friends, and he was full of bull, but he knew he was full of bull, and so that's okay then. And yeah, and he was a smart guy, and he had a great career. I went to his funeral, and George was a great guy, and trained a lot of people that you saw in sports casters for years. That were his disciples. He had a lot of guys out there. Any funny stories on George Michael? Asked Raymond. One time we're at Carlisle. Practice has started. All of a sudden you hear this crash and goes through the fence. And a car had jumped the curb, crashed through the fence and onto George Michael's set and wiped it out. Now, George wasn't there or else he'd have been wiped out. But it was the craziest thing where this woman got distracted by his practice, ran right into everything. George loved to have the biggest and best of everything. So we had golf carts at Frostburg. I didn't, but some people rented golf carts to go back and forth. George didn't rent a golf cart. He had something that would carry like 10 people. That was George. Steve, thank you, Steve, so much for coming. Oh, you got some catching up to. Yeah, I wonder where you were. You weren't first this time. Michael beat you. But thank you so much for coming. Tim, Tony Kornheiser's Bandwagon series in 91 was a classic. Yeah, that was great writing every week. I always said, I've been a columnist for a long time. I can crack off a good line here and there. But Tony could write a whole column that would make you laugh out loud every week on that. And that is a gift in an art. And I don't know if I can do that too much. I'm more snarky, making you laugh. But that was a great series that he did. Michael, I know what happened with Chick, but it's not my place to say. Okay, well, me either. I mean, Chick's doing play-by-play other places, and it's hard. TV guys in town, a lot of the older guys, they were all let go because of money, and now they have young people doing this job for a third. Of course, there's no time anymore because we're doing weather every 3 minutes on the half-hour shows. It's 40 degrees. I'll be back in 3 minutes to tell you what it'll be then. 3 minutes later, it's 41 degrees. Woo! Storm Team Center. I mean, they talk about the weather relentlessly. Just tell me this. What's the temperature going to be today? And is it going to rain? And I have to do a tour tomorrow morning. I'm learning Alexandria. I'm going to be doing Alexandria walks this summer. It's going to be 39 and raining when I'm out there tomorrow. Great. That's going to be a fun time tomorrow. But that's all I need to know. I don't need to know everything else or what's out west or what's going to. Good Lord, they give the weather too much time. And all that comes out of the sports end. Did I talk with Joe Gibbs? Asked Paul. Sure. Over the years, I greatly admired Gibbs. His days after Sean Taylor's death were inspirational when he would talk. But, Gibbs was one of a kind, man. He did a great job. Mojo's excited about Sam Howell. I'm telling you, I think the kid's going to be good. Will he be the next Brock Purdy? I don't know. Man, how would you like to be San Francisco and lose your quarterback in the first quarter of the NFC Championship game? Oh, man. And then I think Josh Johnson comes out, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is that Josh Johnson from the Redskins that they had a few years ago? Yeah. And I looked it up real quick. Yeah. And then he gets a concussion. God, I give Josh Johnson all the credit in the world. He's been on like 13 teams. He's 36 years old. He will not give up the dream. He seems to be around somehow. Good for him. Sorry he got hurt. He could always say, I made an NFC Championship appearance from a guy that was playing arena ball or whatever, indoor ball a couple years ago. That was amazing. Worst head coach, Spurrier or Zorn? Frank, that's a good one. I think they had the same record. Zorn was worse, I guess. That's a hard one, man. By the way, if you guys watch the slap contest on Wednesday nights that the UFC guy is putting out there, Dana White, I like that. I do that. Man, they can really slap each other. That's a pretty good one. Warner Wolf was a self-absorbed, says Michael. Yes, you were correct on that. Tim Berg Zorn started 6-2. Yeah, I'm sitting there thinking at 6-2. I'm thinking, my God, did they luck out into some kind of savant? And then it all went bad. Then he won 6 more games out of a year and a half. Didn't Spurrier and Zorn start a quarterback for Tampa and Seattle in their first games ever? Well, I know that they each played for those teams. I don't know if that was their first game ever or whatever. Favorite all-time Washington player or memory? Maybe Daryl. I mean, Chris, whatever. Depends on the day you ask me as to who was my favorite. I mean, I liked a lot of guys. There are a lot of great guys when you cover them on football teams. A lot of great guys. Very few that you really hate. I like Dan Turk a lot. He was really funny. Sadly died of cancer less than a year after his career ended. Mojo, what happens exactly to return to RFK? Isn't the land owned by the government? Yeah, it is. So you have to get the federal government to somehow extend the lease on it or transfer it to DC. There's a lot going on anytime you're doing politics. By the way, there's a Twitter account called Farewell to RFK out there. So today they put up about this play, about Riggins' play. They said, oh, the Commanders game. And I wrote, you can say Redskins. They deleted their tweet and changed it to say Washington instead of Redskins. They wouldn't say Redskins, but I got shamed them out of saying Commanders because that's just ridiculous. And I have a hard time sometimes trying to figure out how to address this, but I figured if they were Redskins when it happened, then that's what I'll say it is. If it's Commanders now, I'll say it's Commanders. But I won't say Commanders when I mean Redskins because it's stupid. It is what it is. Let's see. Johnson's been there and everywhere. Well traveled and never give up. I give credit, man. Tenacity. Paul instead of Rick and Matt are doing a Super Bowl podcast show. No, Matt needed a break, so we'll be back with the show around free agency. You know, I'm the only idiot that works every week. Let's see. What was your mentor first years of covering the Redskins beat? Asked Major Daddy. You know, Marty Herney and I worked together at the Washington Times. Marty was the beat writer before me by a few years. But we worked on the paper together, and I went out occasionally, and Marty, you know, told me what to do because I was a punk kid in my mid-20s. So he was a good one, you know, for all that. Dave Fay, who's passed away, was one of the meanest man you ever met, but actually had a heart of gold. And he really helped me a lot, too, on there. Bob O'Donnell, Dan Daly. You know, if you're a young reporter, you listen to your elders, and they'll usually steer you the right way. So that's all those guys helped me a lot. Let's see. Never give up. Glenn Brenner came to replace Warner Wolf. Yeah, I guess so. Then Warner came back. Yeah, I remember because who was the guy that was on the desk? The main guy, Gordon Peterson. So Warner comes back the first night after all that time, and Gordon goes, "Yeah, that was a hell of a vacation you went on." Just played it straight at him. Gordon Peterson was a really cool, nice guy too. On there. Yeah, I wasn't a big Warner fan. He blew me off. I was trying to interview him for about coming back, and he just gave me a hard time. He was a jerk. On there. What is it? 9:00. Okay, so we're going to wrap it up. Anybody wants to throw money at me more? Now's the time. If you wanted something special to ask, now's the time. You never hear much about the Smurfs anymore. They had a good run. So Steve, yeah. You know, I'm in the back of the second Smurf movie. They shot it in New York City. My daughter and I are walking down the street. We just happened to be in the background, and they were shooting Gargamel chasing Azrael or the Smurfs down the street. You know, one of those, whatever you call it. So we're in the back. So who knew? Didn't get paid. They were just bad. Keep moving. Let's see. I think Bezos is rich enough to change the name back. John asked. He is, but I don't think that'll happen. I know people would like it to. It would be kind of funny. Wish they would, honestly, but I don't think it's going to happen. Starface, thoughts on Sam as the starter for next year? I think he gets the opportunity to start, and it's up to him to keep the job. But he's number one in line. It doesn't mean he stays number one, but I like his chances. You know, we'll see what else they do. I don't want to see him say, "Oh, we're signing Derek Carr for $1 billion, and he's going to be first," because you know it ain't going to work out. Okay. And okay, I think we got caught up. How do you like that? Hey, we had a decent turnout tonight for for all of this. I appreciate everybody coming. If you're watching on replay later, the whole show, and if you missed any now, the whole show will start over on replay in a few minutes on YouTube. And then you can watch it all week. More people watch on replay than watch live. Kind of weird, but not everybody can be here for this 1 hour. Why did Donnie Warren only get one catch a game, says Mojo? Because they had all those other great options out there. And people didn't throw it to the tight ends as much then. Did they ever mistake you for Andy Reid at FedEx, yes, Paul? Not yet, but I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. If I cut my hair really short, why do you guys do this to me? I don't know. Why haven't they gone after the Chiefs name? Asked Chris. I pondered that on Twitter, and I had like 80,000 people watch that tweet. And it's like, I don't think it's fair either. I think if they took the Redskins, here's the thing. I think Dan Snider traded the Redskins name to stay out of trouble with the NFL. But the problem was his critics kept after him until they got it. So I think that's why he gave it up. So, Mojo, you're full of beans on that. So anyway, thank you everybody for coming. Wow, the hour always goes by quickly. I enjoy talking to everybody and just see what you're interested in. Remember, videos are in the morning and evening around 6 o'clock, both times on there. And if you want to go on tour in DC, if you're coming later, reach me out at Monumental Thoughts. And I'd say the blank website name, but that's the website's name. Without the algorithm, can't find it. Favorite pie, unknown, apple, man. Apple, all day long. But that's not that I don't like colored pies on there. Do not like pecan. I don't know if my wife loves that. I think she makes it so she knows I won't eat it on there. Lemon meringue, always awesome. But apple's my favorite on there. All right, Paul, thank you for coming by, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for coming by. This is Rick Snider Washington. Thank you for coming. Hopefully you'll see me again, at least next couple of Mondays. And I'd laugh. I'd do a live Super Bowl show, but other people are doing that. And I got friends over, so I don't have time for that. But we'll talk more Super Bowl next week. This is kind of finally a quiet week maybe ahead. And I'm done. So, hey, thank you all for coming, and I'll see you again next week.